Kalari training occurs either at dawn or at dusk. The earth needs to be at the right temperature in order to attain the best results. Each Kalari session begins with taking a quick shower to remove the grogginess, explains one student at CVN Kalari. Oil is then applied all over the body. This forces the person to rub vigorously, opening up the nerves. This makes the muscles supple and forces blood through the veins, allowing the muscles to react quickly. The oil itself acts as a protective layer in the dirt and helps cool down the body during practice. The langot or the kacha, which all the men wear in the Kalari modestly, is a long piece of cloth which is tightly bound around the navel and the groin region to protect, as the Guru says, the center of the life energy, or otherwise known as the origin of the Kundalini Shakti. This Shakti is employed quite frequently in Kalari training. Exercises and a few yogasanas are practiced by all students to warm up the body before entering the Kalari. The student enters with their right foot, then touches the ground with their right hand, seeking permission from the Bhumi Devi, or the goddess of the Kalari, to practice on her. Acknowledging the sacred ground, the student then touches the forehead, followed by touching the heart. This symbolizes what is learnt in the Kalari is understood by the mind and then embraced by the heart. The other gods and goddesses present in the Kalari are all evoked in 5 basic steps. The first is to cross diagonally to the Putara, where a moment of silence is demanded in order to first pay respect to the goddess, then to clear the mind of all worldly problems. This is absolutely vital if the student is to undergo weapons training. The student stops at the Ganapati Tara and the Guru Tara and repeats the same hand gestures to pay respect. Some of the older students who knew the other gurus in the lineage might stop a while longer to pay respects to their departed guru, who is embodied in the Guru Tara. Finally, after taking a pradakshina around the Kalari, the younger students approach the senior students first and ask them for their blessings. This way, the students realize that the Kalari is a place of learning and are not here to do. The older students acknowledge the younger students because most of the time, the older students end up training them at one point or another. Some of the younger ones do not initially understand the mental focus that is required to start practice. However, as they advance through the training, the body and the mind is transformed and conditioned. The Kalari Vanakkam is the Kalari salutation. It's a series of steps and sequences that follow diagonally across the Kalari facing the Putara, the goddess. These sequences that are done in the start of the practice loosens the stiffness in the limbs, and the breathing allows the mind to align itself for practice. The student is taught at every stage to get each limb right in the right place. Timing and moreover the correct posture is the ultimate requirement. Intense focus is developed here by allowing the students to focus on a single point on the wall. It could be any of the weapons, the Guru Tara or the Putara, or the Diya, which is the oil lamp. The hand movements are synchronized with breathing. This is done at least 7 times. This causes the 7 chakras, the small pools of energy located within the body, to start opening up. This allows the inner energy to be realized during practice. Then comes the leg exercises called Kalaka of various kinds. The younger students practice in a group which the Guru places them in. The older and the advanced students sometimes practice on their own until the Guru is ready for them in their group training. The leg exercises are there to stretch and strengthen the spine, which is absolutely vital. This allows quick reflexes during training and sparring. The point is that it's not a kick, but rather a quick upward movement of the legs in different directions, forcing the body to bend. There are multiple types of leg movements that are first practiced before moving on to the Vadivu, the body postures. These are not static postures, but rather a combination of movements. Vadivukal are the 8 animal positions, and in no particular order, the animal positions are taught individually at first, then in a sequence. Each animal position has both an attack and defense attributes. The animals are hunters and protectors. They are based on the Shiva and Shakti essence. The Shiva forms are more sturdy and grounded, masculine in nature, while the Shakti forms are more fluid with high jumps and kicks, flexible and feminine in nature. The Gaja Vadivu is the elephant pose, the Simha Vadivu is the lion pose, and the Marja Vadivu is the cat pose. However, in some sampradayams, the cat pose and the lion pose are interrelated. The Ashta Vadivu is the horse pose and is perhaps the most used Vadivu in the Shiva forms. It allows the students to flow from one animal form to the other, depending upon the training and sequence. The Kukara Vadivu is, as the name explains, the rooster or the cock pose. It is perhaps universal in being used both in hand-to-hand combat as well as in Angatari Payatu. The Sarpa Vadivu is the serpent or the snake pose and is probably one of the most difficult to achieve, as it requires intense amounts of flexibility and is the ultimate Shakti form. The ability to fall to earth at any given moment is a practiced art. And finally, the Mayura Vadivu is the peacock pose, which is another Shakti form that teaches balance, which later will be used in Angatari with the sword and shield. All the poses are taught in Vayatari or oral commands. These commands are the sacred knowledge that is passed down from one guru to the other. They are poetic in nature, which allows the Kalari Payatu students to follow the rhythm in the commands and match it to their sequence. Timing is slowly manipulated in this training. Mayapayatu chapter is definitely the most important in all Kalari training. It is practiced on a daily basis. Even the guru practices it once a day after training session in order to teach it the next day. It is the basis of all further uses of Kalari Payatu training. In a manner of speaking, it is how the leg exercises and the animal positions accumulate together during fights. The Koaltari Payatu is the wooden weapons training, and there are 4 main weapons: the Kettakari, the long stick, the Cheruvadi, the short stick, and the Otta, the curved stick, which resembles a buffalo horn. It has no sharp edge, but rather a pointed end, which causes more destruction than a sharp blade, for it is used to target multiple marma or vital points in the body at the same time. The weapons training takes place in small batches, and it is usually done after other students have gone, as it requires more room. The guru decides whether the student is ready to learn the art of weapons or not. It has to be understood that these weapons are symbolically divine. They are not only to be taken as extensions of the limb, but are also having a higher purpose, as they represent the characteristics of the weapons carried by the gods and goddesses themselves. There is the added responsibility that requires unbelievable amounts of focus, as even a small mistake can cause great harm. It is observed as the student progresses in Kalari Payatu and moves on from the wooden weapons to the Angatari Payatu, or the metal weapons, the student starts slowing down in the training, where each pose is fully carried out to create a muscle memory which is required in advanced chapters. The Vadivu, such as the Gaja Vadivu, are moments of pauses where the student is made to observe the attacker. The focus is extended over a period of time through the training until a point where the Kalari Payatu student rarely blinks throughout the sparring session. Then the ultimate focus is achieved. The Angatari moves through several weapons such as the Katara, the double-edged pointed blade that is held like a shield and allows you to cut through armor easily. While practicing this, the student moves away from the fear that they might have experienced in Cheruvadi or the short stick. This is closer and more dangerous. The Kuntam is the spear and is taught with the use of Sarpa Vadivu. It is progressed on from the long stick and is held in the same manner. Some of the movements are also similar in terms of jabbing and slamming against the shield. The spear is parried with the sword and shield and is used in a lot of performances as it has a high aesthetic value. It also requires the most amount of training. One has to understand that the mind has to be completely empty. The state of anticipating an attack is called a battle frenzy in Kalari Payatu. It is a state of warfare, it is a state of mind. However, the mental training and the body training in the sword and shield is nothing compared to the urumi, a flexible sword of almost 1.5 meters in length, made of spring steel. This double-edged thin sword was an assassin's weapon, and there are ballads in the Vadakan Patangal about heroes slaying 7 enemies at the same time with one swing of the sword. Even though the student uses a shield to protect himself from the urumi is designed in such a way that it will bend over the shield and cut the opponent. Even while defending against the urumi, it is very important to keep moving the body while defending, because one can cut himself from his own blade. The reason why urumi is so dangerous is because a practitioner can cut himself with his own blade if they do not know how to jump properly. The Shakti form is perhaps the most utilized in the urumi training. Having advanced through the Angatari weapons, the student is given a choice. The student is given an option to learn Marma Chitiska or Kalari Chitiska. This is usually taught to students who are already learning the Vedic science of Ayurveda. The Kalari massage is done in order to first understand the vital points and to heal it. The Kalari massage is very unique depending on where it's from. The northern styles allow a more Ayurvedic approach, while the southern follow a very important Marma Arti, which is the Dravidian approach. The southern styles use the Siddha Vedya, which is slightly different from the Ayurveda. One has to understand that this is not just a martial art. It is an opportunity in transformation of the body, mind and soul. For even after all the practice, whether it is a younger student or an older student, the need to sit quietly, relax and empty the mind. The body may be controlled by the body movements with the oral commands of the guru who teaches you. The mind, the focus of the mind, the focus and the concentration of the mind is the conclusion, or rather the consequences of that. And it is a requirement in the environment of the Kalari. The student has to adapt in order to not get hurt. However, the spirit or the soul is more subtle and is only achieved by practicing on a daily basis. The idea that every pain, every cut, every learning is nothing but an idea allows the student to realize that in the end it's all emptiness. In the end it's nothing.